Good afternoon and welcome to week 23, week 24, check-ins and business questions. If you're not an Academy member, check us out in the comments below, in the description box. If you are an Academy member, the comments are going to be turned off on this video. So use your dedicated WhatsApp groups for communications about your check-ins or any further questions that you've got. That way we can just see them quicker when you've got issues or questions, because obviously this is going out at a certain time and obviously commenting when this is not live. So if you're watching live, great. If you're watching later, obviously it makes it difficult for us to keep on top of the comments and helping people. So for dedicated chats, use your WhatsApp groups. For the Academy members, if you're not an Academy member, get in touch below. So that's that out of the way. So the first check-in we're going to go to is to Matt Allbones. So we'll start off with this one. There's quite a few good bits to get through tonight. I've had a few good questions sent in, and we're going to go into one of the biggest challenges that most of you are having at the moment, because you've got growing businesses, is the recruiting and managing, which we're going to come on to a little bit later on. But for now, let's start with Matt's check-in, and then I will get into some questions and then another check-in. I'm keeping the check-ins and questions a little bit shorter tonight because I want to focus on something that's come up a lot in the check-ins over the last few weeks, which is the recruiting and managing. So first question from on the check-ins, what we always ask is celebrating wins. So Matt's put his passed his Which interview. So obviously he's become now Which Trusted Trader. And all of you know how important that is, or how important I believe it is in becoming recognised, especially as a tradesperson, as being one of the best, Which is definitely that. And he's passed that, and, great, that's fantastic. It really is important. That's a massive step for you, mate. So well done for that. This will definitely help your business moving forward, as you know. You've heard me speak about it many times. You've also said social media efforts on social media efforts are starting to show shoots, so that's good. Again, being consistent with your social media is good. And you're currently having your first go at a bathroom for the in-laws. Well, it's better to practice where it's safer, in it. So, well, it seems good, mate. Considering the conversations we've had in the past, especially at the event, this is definitely good for you celebrating your wins. This is really, really positive stuff. So moving on, the next one's about personal growth. Been struggling with my back lately, which seems to be getting better, so I might actually get a game of golf in finally. Well, there's nothing worse than back problem, is there, mate? But again, if that's moving in the right direction for you, get the golf clubs out, especially while it's nice and sunny, and get some fresh air. It's good for you. So areas for support. So you're chatting with one of the local magazines about an advert, a half a page at least. Do you have suggestions on what to put in it? So with magazines, obviously, you've got the speak to us about your leaflet template. And normally in a magazine spread, we would include basically what's on the leaflet. So you want reviews, before and after pictures, some of the wording off your website, QR codes, phone number, web address. They're the main things really that you do definitely not, you don't want to be leaving those things out. It's amazing still when people send me stuff and say, what do you think of this? And there's not a review on there, or, you've got some good reviews, so make sure you use them. Local magazines you've got to know your audience with the magazines. So you want to get a bit, you'd have to tell us a bit more detail. So again, use your WhatsApp group and say, this is the magazine. What do you think? And we'll help you write something up. Because again, you want it to match the look and feel of that magazine. You get what I'm saying? It depends what type of magazine it is, but if it's a local directory, then we want something that sort of fits in with their publication. So yeah, but again, they're the list that I give you. Just make sure nothing's missed off it. Use your WhatsApp group for further help and support on that. Magazines can be good. Again, we've seen some people take on magazines that have been very expensive. So don't get sucked into, this gets put in front of 30,000 homes and all that shit. If I was going to use a magazine, I'd probably look at the current magazine and see if there's another kitchen or bathroom business in there. And if they've got a decent spread, I would probably ring them and say, look, I'm thinking about advertising this as well. Do you get much from it? They may not be honest, obviously, but because they may see you as a competitor. So maybe ring up and pretend to be a customer or something and ask them, oh, do you get many from the magazine? And just see what they say. They're probably going to say yes at that point. So I'm trying to think of a way of doing some market research here where you could, maybe ring a random business in there. And just, you want to know how sort of reliable this magazine is, because again, and how it's delivered and all the rest of it. So you do want to be very careful about this and make sure that you don't get ripped off and you go for one that actually does get put through doors. It is something that may sound silly, but you'd be amazed what goes on out there once people have got your money. Right, so concerns. So no major concerns, just weighing up which marketing things to kick off after the magazine ad, van wrap leaflets or something else. Well, van wrap leaflets is definitely something that you need to be doing. Making sure that you're turning up on your surveys properly. Keeping on top of your CRM. Again, something that I want to point out to Academy members is we get told sometimes that you need more leads. Everyone says they need more leads, no matter what industry they're in. That's like the universal thing that people say. But what we found with some of you Academy members is that you actually do have more leads than you think, and they're sometimes sat in your CRM, not doing anything. So my other piece of advice there would be to make sure that you're absolutely all over your CRM. You're learning it inside out, and that as you start doing this marketing and you're starting to turn your attention there, that you fully understand that CRM and the sales process. Because ultimately, when you've got a lead, that's where you're going to put them. So you need to understand that next string of what happens with these leads when they actually come. Does that make sense? So don't go in too hard on one thing. Make sure you're always looking at it, across marketing and sales, your sales process. So look at putting the effort into getting leads, but also make sure that once you've got them, you know how to convert them, or give yourself at least the best chance of converting them. But again, follow what's in the 12 steps. There's lots of ideas, lots of stuff in there. Make sure that you're exasperating all those avenues before you start thinking of anything more fancy. But again, it sounds like you've got your head into the game here, and again, based on previous conversations we've had, but there have been some concerns. It looks like you're starting to move in a really positive direction. So it's really good. So looking ahead. Working on leads in Bark and My Builder. Got my first review on Bark last week. We'll try and get some previous customers to add more. Yeah, again, reviews are where your brand is built, mate. That is definitely what you've got to be mindful of here, is that your brand is built very firmly where the reviews are. So you want to make sure that you any previous customers that you've got a good relationship with are you're exploiting that partner, that relationship with them to say, look, even if you just be honest and go, look, can really help my business if you would recognize the past effort, that I've put into your project. And, I'd really appreciate leaving me a 5-star review on Google, Facebook, generally Google I would recommend. Which you can't do that on because it's got to be a Which job and they're really strict with it. So, but yeah, as many reviews as you can get and go back to as many previous customers as you can. We have set people challenges in the past, and again in the academy there is a bit of a go back and try and get as many as you can. So go to the reviews. I think it's in section 1 of the 12 steps, and look at the reviews bit in there and use that to get some reviews under your belt. Okay. Well, things look like they're going in the right direction. That's the main thing. Don't. It looks like you're doing what you need to do right now, and that's just being steady. As you've heard me say many times, there's no silver bullet, and you don't need to rush. You need to transition, and that's what this is about. This is a long-term thing, and your development will happen gradually over time. And it looks like we're moving in that direction now, mate. So well done. I say no real concerns there. Just take on board what I've said and use your WhatsApp group to talk about this magazine in more detail with us, please. Okay, right. Moving on. So, what we've got now is a question. So this is a question that comes up quite a lot, and it's something that obviously when you start getting busier. So the question is this: should I have a day off to clear my admin? Or, as as I say to people, do your 90-minute sessions 3, 4, 5, or as many times a week as you can, where you have a concentrated time slot to work on the stuff that's to do with working on your business. And people sort of struggle with that sometimes, and I'm one of them. We all do. We all struggle with, God, life gets in the way, things get in the way, and next thing you know, a week's passed and you've done cock all other than day-to-day shit, which has done nothing to drive you forward. But when really, really successful people, and if you want to be one of them, you won't be an exception to this rule. You need to find time on a daily basis, or at least every other day, to think about you and where you're going in the future. Because today is going to happen and all the day-to-day shit still needs to get done. Yeah. But if you don't carve out any time at all and you use "I'm busy" as an excuse for doing that, then you will be busy doing what it is you're doing today forever. Yeah. You've got to peel back some of what you're doing today to think about the future and plan for the future. And by plan for the future, doing these 90-minute, or even if it's 30 minutes or 45 minutes or 60 minutes, it doesn't really matter as long as you're doing something every day or every other day at least where you're pushing the business forward. And there's lots of things in your 90-minute sessions. It's mainly working through the stuff that's in the academy, because nothing in the academy is day-to-day running of the business other than the quote templates and stuff like that. But most of the stuff in the academy is all about building your brand and moving you forward. So it's just about working on the stuff that's in there, on the daily checklists, the monthly checklists. They're the tasks that should be filling your 90 minutes, or learning stuff that you're not sure about, like learning your sales process and getting to grips with your CRM. That's really worthy. And self-development stuff, that's really worthy stuff to put in your 90-minute sessions. But when people sort of struggle with this, because again, it's a discipline that doesn't happen overnight. It's something that we need to develop over time. And that's why I say start small and work your way up. Now, it's easy to default to, if I had half a day every week where I just spent on it, would that work? Theoretically, yes. But what you've got to bear in mind here is if you have all week and you think, I could have done some stuff, but no, I've got that planned in for Friday or Saturday or whenever, or fucking Wednesday night or whenever it might be. And for whatever reason that doesn't work, or something gets in the way of that, then you're going to have a whole week of doing nothing, because you won't then, you won't pivot quickly. You won't go, well, I didn't do it then, so I'll do it then. You'll go, all right, well, I'll try and pick it up next week. And you can see where this is going, can't you? You can see why this could lead you into a deeper hole than where you already were, because you are now trying to bite off massive chunks and it doesn't work. And it's not just the fact that it's hard to plan like that and things will easily get in the way of it, and then it makes you even more stressed. But doing things in smaller chunks is actually better, because it allows you time to think. Because sometimes I've done it myself, and this is a discipline I've got myself out of now, because I used to be like that and go, right, I'll sit there all day and all night until 2 o'clock in the morning. And then we're looking back, the quality of what you do when you do it like that is normally a lot less, because you start getting tired. If so, a 90-minute chunk, the reason why it's 90 minutes isn't just because it's a nice lot of time. It's actually because your brain after 90 minutes also starts to switch off. And you lose concentration and stuff like that. So if you think you're gonna sit there for 4 or 5 hours and achieve loads, you ain't. And you are, again, even psychologically, biologically, these are facts. This is human behavior. You are not going to be an exception to the rule. So, no, you should not be having a day off to clear your admin, because even if it is admin and stuff like that, and we're calling it admin, but what we're talking about really is the stuff that's to do with working on your business. And I know what the question meant. But even admin, no, you need to pick things off in smaller chunks and get things done and keep on top of them. And again, without spending all night on this, it's also psychological that, when I spend hours and hours and hours and hours on stuff now, it pisses you off anyway. It's not sustainable. You get to a point where you're like, I fucking had enough of this now. And you look back and go, because I didn't give myself time to think about it, I've gone down a rabbit hole with this and I've made a mistake. And now it's going to take me a long time to unpeel it. So again, if I'd done that in an hour's chunk here and an hour's chunk there, that time for your brain to re-energize in between doing these things, you'd have gone, oh yeah, that's a better idea than that. Do you understand what I mean? So you correct yourself a lot quicker because you come in and out of it. You know, and by in and out of it, I mean like an hour stop or 90 minutes stop. Right, okay, we'll pick that up again tomorrow, or we'll start that. So in between these times, you'll be thinking about, oh, well, maybe I could have done that better and that better and this better. And do you understand what I'm saying? So it's like more practice. The smaller the chunks are, the more frequent they are, the more practice you're getting at doing it. You know, trying to pick it off in one big chunk just isn't going to work. So no, I don't believe that, other than, you know, being on, if you're still on site and working, yeah, you've got to stay on site for 7-8 hours and do the job. But when it comes to your admin, yeah, all right, sometimes there might be quotes and stuff that take ages and all the rest of it. But, you know, the important stuff that pushes your business forward is not something that you can just bite off and chew for long periods. If you are coming off the tools and you are a lot more office based, then yeah, you can spend a bit more time doing stuff like that. But even then, you know, you're still not going to, you know, break the laws of, you know, brain biology and, you know, break this concentration rule around the 90 minutes. You are still going to wane. You know, you're still going to dip in your energy, and your productivity will still dip. Just because you've got the time to do it like that doesn't still mean that you should. You know, this is about using things to your strengths, and, you know, using the human brain and behavior to your advantage and understanding it and controlling it instead of being controlled by it. So yeah, in a nutshell, whatever it takes, you've got to make sure that you are creating these more organized, smaller pockets of time to get things done. It will keep momentum going. It will make you feel like you're achieving something on the go, and it'll give you small hits of dopamine, and that'll keep you moving through the week. Whereas again, when you sit and try and bite off loads in one big session, because what will happen, this is what will happen, you'll have a 5-hour session, and again, I've done it myself loads of times, and you'll think, right, at the end of this 5-hour session, I'll be there. 3 hours into it, you're still there, and you're thinking, shit, by the end of that 5 hours, I'm not going to be where I want to be. And it's disheartening. And that's because at the beginning of the session, you think, I've got ages. So you just get distracted, you know, and when you haven't got ages, you don't get distracted. So do you see what I'm saying? The psychology behind why you do things a certain way and why I say do it a certain way is you know, it's not for fun. There's reasons behind it. So although it might seem logical that, oh, I can create this big chunk of time, that might be true, but doesn't mean you're going to achieve anything or more. You're probably going to achieve less for all the reasons I've just said. Okay, so stick to the plan. Try and annoyingly, I know it's not what people want to hear, but you won't break this rule. In terms of, you need to do things in smaller chunks. You need to find time to do it more often at the expense of other things. You need to get out of the day-to-day sometimes to do these other things. So what are you doing that you shouldn't be doing, or you could do less of, or what you're wasting your time on to create time for this? If you want to be successful, this is what you have to do. Okay, right. So the next question is about surveys. So what we've got here is in the academy, obviously, when we started it, it was heavily around kitchens. Now, you know, it still is heavily around kitchens, but bathrooms are equally playing their role now. And kitchens and bathrooms, like, people say, oh yeah, they're practically similar, because it's a bit, I always find it weird how they got thrown into the same industry to a degree, like the KBB industry. I've always wondered, like, how the fuck do kitchens and bathrooms end up in the same breath? Because they are very different. They're very different, you know, for loads of reasons. So yeah, it's weird how even I can't explain why they've ended up in the same pot, but here we are. And, you know, it is something, I think it's more consumer led, that customers assume that you do one, you do the other. Again, I don't know why. I don't know where it comes from. But anyway, I digress. Now, when you're doing kitchens, I mean, this is a broad comment, but sometimes people with kitchens have a better idea of what they want, because they've probably looked at some stuff and all the rest of it. But bathrooms are inherently annoying when it's surveying, because customers sometimes just don't know what they want. There's lots of technical reasons why in a bathroom certain products won't work and certain ideas won't work. Where's the soil pipe, where the joists running, where's this, where's the doors and windows located. You are very restricted in a bathroom generally on what is actually possible, and so in a kitchen. But you know what I'm saying. It's like you there's more things to sort of think about in a small space, and where people are trying to cram loads of shit in, as opposed to something that's a bit bigger where you've got a bit more freedom to design, if you like. So what the question here is on bathrooms, customers sometimes don't have a clue what they want. So how do you deal with that? Now, what you got to be mindful of, and the actual question we got here was, should I push them for decisions on what to want and do, and all the rest of it? Because you turn up to someone's house and they're going, oh well, I'm not, I just don't know what I want. I know I need a new bathroom, but I just don't know what I want. Now it is irritating, but it's going to happen, and it's going to happen a lot with bathrooms for the reason I've just said. Now this is where you've got to turn into more salesman mode, but not salesman mode, but you've got to turn into you got to turn the patience up, because right now they're probably going to test those patients. But if you want to win this customer over, now these probably will be the easiest ones to convert. So that's the first thing that I want to say. The more green people are, and the more helpful you are, the chances of your conversion go through the roof. So this is where some people get frustrated with customers and lose the customer, because they could be, they're just a pain in the ass and we can't deal with the way they are. But I've always looked at those customers and gone, if I help you for every bit that you're not sure about, you're going to go with me, because there's no way on earth that I'm going to be that helpful to you all the way through, and then you're going to pull and go, oh, I'll get him to do it, because, well, they might do, and I get that does and can happen, but the chances of it drop significantly when you are very helpful throughout the process. So if you turn up to a survey and the customer's like, look, I just don't know what I want, then the first thing you need to do is do the technical survey. So what I mean by that is understand what's possible. Make sure that you know where the soils are, just understand what's possible, because you want to walk out of there going, they're going to ask me a lot of questions now. And when they do, I need to be able to say, well, this will work and that won't. So you just need to really get your head around, right, where's everything running? Where's all the pipes? Where is everything? So on your 2D planner that we give you, make sure that you've just basically took as many pictures as you can, and you're ready for the questions, basically. So that's the first thing that I'd do. I'd leave them with a brochure, and I'd probably say to them, I try and get some initial sort of ideas. Do you like wall hung, freestanding, furniture? Do you want, a wet room? Who lives in the house? Understand who lives there and know the practicalities around. Have they got children? Do they bath the dog? In the bathroom. I know it sounds ridiculous, but the amount of times that we've gone in, they go, oh, we need a handheld thing because we like to bath the dog and all that shit. Just understand as much as you possibly can about how they're going to use the room and all the rest of it. So, and the reason why is that you want to get one step ahead now. You want to understand what's possible in that house, in that room, and you want to understand how they want to use that room. So when they come at you now with suggestions and things that they ask you about, you can go, right, you need that, you can't have that, or you don't want that because of this. Yeah, so you almost need to put yourself in their situation, but with the technical knowledge, and go, right, this is what I would do, and this is why I would do it. So try and extract from them at that point what they are after in terms of the look, feel, colours, all the rest of it. So then you in your own head can go, right, well, these ranges will work, I'll leave them out of it. Try and get an idea of budget again. Again, normally people that don't have a clue aren't budget conscious, because think about it. If they are budget conscious, they usually know what they want, because they've looked at the expensive stuff and they've looked at the cheap stuff. if they haven't got a clue what they want and they're literally green as a leaf, then they're probably not focused on cost. So don't you start focusing them on cost. Don't you push them down that road if they've not walked down it themselves. Yeah. Now, if they do say, "Oh, yeah, we're looking to spend X," but normally people who haven't got a clue are just not sure. They're just like, "Whatever, it is what it is." And they're obviously your best type of customers because you can do what you want in terms of the design, the feel of it. Get to a point where they go, "Oh yeah, but can we change that?" These are perfect. So you want to try and get some level of decision at the meeting, the first survey, but not like final decisions. Just rough ideas, and then just make suggestions based on their requirements. Now, what I'd probably say as well, if you get to the end of the first survey and you've done your technical 2D plan, roughly what they want, how they're going to use the room, where they want tiling, get those types of things out, color schemes, all the rest of it. Don't push them too hard. If you feel like they're just really not sure, just be like, okay, I'll assume this for now. Then I'll assume a white tile, a full tile. Just make some suggestions around. Let's start with a blank canvas. Let's start with a plain tile, tiled everywhere with a white suite, and let's try. Do you understand what I mean? Give them a canvas to work from. And then what I would probably do as well is go, look, I'll price it based on this. So we're not going to go too high, not too low. We're just going to stick it in the middle, see what we feel like once we've seen a design or a 2D plan. And maybe then we have a second meeting. So like a second survey, because what you don't want to do here is try and get too many decisions too soon and then try and class the second meeting as a design session. Because it'll be a pain in the ass because it'll just be hard work. So you almost want to sort of stretch the process a little bit and go, right, we've talked about it here. Let's have a meet here or a Zoom call or something like that. And then when we have a much better idea, when you've had a few days to look at brochures and you've got my feedback on your ideas, and we'll keep talking on email. Now, this is the only time that I would invite an email tennis situation, because this is where you sort of need to step into that really helpful mode. Now, if you go, oh, no, I need, I'm only going to speak to you at the design session, that's not helpful for this type of customer. Does that make sense? So this is where the rules can bend slightly from what I normally say, where I say, once you've had your initial design, get to the design session. That is way more common in kitchens, but again, you've got to read the customer. If they're just completely clueless, you need to sort of bend a little bit here. Yeah. So suggest that second survey and make sure that you are armed with the brochures and all the rest of it second time round, or however you feel like you need to do that. Now, sometimes you might do that and go, right, at the second survey, the decisions start coming thick and fast. So you might get to a point in the second survey where you go, all right, sound, we've made a lot of decisions here, so I can now finalize the design. So you may be in a position where you don't necessarily need to meet them again. You can send them the final design based on that meeting. Does that make sense? So, that's very common as well. But again, best practice would be to still have that final, here's your samples. Are you happy with this? Are you happy with that? Because obviously trying to rush anything means that later on they will probably feel rushed and maybe change their mind halfway through the job, which will be or just before the job starts or something like that. So rushing people is never a strategy, because it will backfire in one way, shape, or form. Either they've made a decision too soon and they change it, which is a fucking nightmare for you, or you end up losing the sale because they feel like you're trying to push them too hard. Okay, so that is my sort of rundown on where to bend the rules if a customer is a bit clueless on a survey, and what to do about it. I think I'm hopeful that I've covered off everything that I would do. You may have your own ideas as well as experienced fitters, but that from a sales and business perspective is how I would manage that and make sure that the customer is kept happy, basically, and supported, and that my business has been helpful to that customer throughout that process, especially when they weren't clear about what they wanted. And if you can be part of that decision-making process, these are the types of customers that you become a lot closer with, and that you get recommendations from. So don't look at these customers as, yes, they're a pain in the ass at the beginning. Yes, it can be difficult. But these are the people that really remember what you did for them. And these will be the people that tell their friends and family. These will be the people that grow your brand. Yeah. And this is really where business is. The people that you help the most will be the ones that really help you grow your business and get your brand out there. So, as annoying as some of this might be on one hand, because they're not quick and they're not in and out, they usually are the best ones in the end. So, just bear that in mind. Okay. So moving on to the next question, or this one's a bit more of a business challenge or mindset issue here. Conversations that come up is like when people are starting to transition from labor only into offering their own stuff, some people are like surprised at how much the quotes come out at and say, my quote seems expensive, but customers are still saying yes. Now, what you got to be careful of here is that you are assuming what people think is cheap and what people think is expensive. And that is a really big mistake. As tradespeople and people in the industry, we know how much things really cost. Now, that knowledge is a curse, because when you look at your costs and go, well, to survive as a business, I've got to add at least 30% on. Some people add a lot more. But it's at least 30% in any business to make anything. Then because obviously out of that 30% gross profit, you've got to run your fucking business. Then you got to add VAT on. So people go, all right, so my base level costs are $5,000. So now I've added on, another 30%. So I'm up to like $6,500, $7,000. Then I'm adding VAT on. It's like $8,000, $9,000. Do you understand what I mean? So it feels fucking it's expensive. There's no way people are going to say yes to this. But this is just because you're not thinking like a business person. And this is where, you've got to remember that the market value of something is the market value of something. How do you think the big boys get away with charging what they charge? Because they understand from a customer's perspective, they just understand value. So stop assuming basically on this one. Stop assuming what customers think is cheap and what customers think is too much or expensive. That is none of our business, what they think is cheap and what they think isn't cheap. We've got to go with value and know that what we're offering is in line with the market. And at the end of the day, if it's in line with the market, we charge what the market charges, or sometimes we charge a bit more, sometimes we charge a bit less. But the point is, we're thereabouts, we're in the marketplace, we're as good as everybody else. Why do we need to take less money than everybody else? We've still got a business to run, and et cetera, et cetera. And that's sort of the way you need to think about it. And I know it might feel like, especially when you're making your first few sales, where you go, oh God, I'm making loads of money. But your costs as a business will rise, so you will think on the first few, rolling in it. But after a year, when your business has matured a bit and you've got a few more overheads to pay for and all the rest of it, you'll start understanding why you needed to charge that money back. Do you understand what I'm saying? It all does a full circle. So let that full circle happen before you start judging what is expensive and what isn't. Because when you start off your business journey, you'll feel like you've got more money. If you have a few good sales that drop in, you feel, I've got all this money. But then it starts to disappear. And then you realize that, we have to keep the cash flow cycle going. But again, the key one here is just to not assume anything. Do what's in line with the market, do what's in line with your own numbers, and make sure once you've got momentum that you keep going. And like I say, don't assume anything to do with cost. As long as you're not ripping people off or you're not being too cheap, you'll be fine. And ignore what you think, your costs are. That's none of the customer's business. So you've got your own business to run. And this is where tradespeople sort of fall down, because they'll go, I can get it for this, so I'll help my customer out. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that if you want to eternally suffer for trying to get things into customers for cheap, because that's ultimately what a lot of tradespeople do. They just try to do everybody else the favors when, that's fine. But you just got to understand that the only person paying for it is you. And at the end of the day, to the customer, it's just money. It's just a few more quid if you did it right. So why suffer? because they're not asked. They pay for that kitchen, whether it was £2,000 less or £2,000 more. Once they got that kitchen, their life moves on. Do they give a shit? No. But if you've saved them that money, great, and they won't fucking remember that you did it anyway. And then this is where you got to be careful. Time goes very quickly. You want to be building a business or some level of profit, but you have a good life too. And the thing is, what you got to remember is you making money is good for your customers. It is not good for your customers if you're skint, because the mindset that you're in when you're skint is not helpful to them. Because when you stand in front of your customer and you know that financially you're safe, you're a much more relaxed person. You are able to deal with what needs to be dealt with to serve them as a customer. Now, when you are on your ass and you are skint and you're struggling, you cannot focus on the day-to-day. Never mind doing the 90 minutes and all the important stuff. The day-to-day stuff becomes difficult because your head's up your ass. And normally why your head's up your ass is because you're not quoting jobs properly, you're not running jobs properly, you're not charging what you should be charging. And everybody that's working is doing something. The only difference between successful people and people not successful is that the successful people are charging what they should be charging. And that is it. Because when you think about it intrinsically, every kitchen fitter in industry is just doing the same thing, fitting kitchens or running kitchens or whatever it is. The only difference on their success levels is how much they're charging for it. There you go. Drop the mic. As long as you're charging what you should be charging and you're thinking more businessy and less tradesman-y and, trying to do everyone else the favours and, not help yourself and help your own business, understanding now that if you help yourself and you help your own business, your customer benefits. Because the customer, how nice is it when you do business with a business and the customer, and the business is really good to do business with? How pissed off do we get in this country when we get shit customer service? Why do you think you get shit customer service? I'll tell you the number one reason why you get shit customer service. I'll tell you why when you go out in restaurants in this country, most of them, and eating establishments, the service is shit. Why? Because the staff are paid shit, the staff aren't happy, and normally the business owner's not happy. So you're walking into an unhappy environment before you fucking start. And you as the customer can feel that. And this is what I think when some people are not in a great place mentally and financially, usually because of their own fault, the customers pick up on it. The customers can sense energy. Like, you can sense my energy as where I'm at. Am I relaxed? Am I on it? Am I focused? You would know if I was like, and I'm not quite on it. You think, is something not right? Do you get what I mean? So that would make you feel hesitant about, should I listen? Should I not? Should I trust? Should I not? Do you get what I'm saying? And this is all very much where everyone's business is. When you walk into a customer's survey to do the initial meeting and they sense tension and they sense that you're not comfortable and they sense that you're worrying about stuff and you're just not present, it's not a good look. And most of that stress comes from exactly what I'm talking about here, is second guessing maybe what customers are thinking and not charging correctly for it. I'm looking at your quotes thinking, it's expensive, but customers are still going ahead. Now, I've done a really broad answer to this because obviously the initial question was, or the comment, should I say, was my quotes seem expensive, but customers are still going ahead. Yeah, because the thinking behind everything here is tradesman thinking, but you're having a business person experience and the two don't marry up. Whereas what you got to do is get rid of the tradesman thinking fucking quickly, because what you might start doing is dropping your price so it feels more comfortable to you. But then you start to suffer, and then inherently your customer starts to suffer because you're not settled and focused as you were, because now you're starting to feel financial pressure. And you see the cycle here, don't you? This is what happens. And this is why your quote isn't expensive and your customers will go ahead. It's expensive to you, but it's not to them. So clearly get rid of that comment of it's expensive. And again, I know I've spent a lot of time on this and I've been round, I've probed this comment from a number of different angles, but they're all really, really valid. And this is mindset around pricing. This is mindset around charging. This is you ignoring what your numbers are, knowing what the market is, knowing what needs to be done, to make your business successful, make you feel settled. And that in turn perpetuates. When you're financially secure, you can concentrate on your business. So when you can concentrate on your business, your customers are happy. When your customers are happy, more customers come because those customers say good things about you. And that is how you build. But if your pricing is wrong at the beginning and you can't fucking do anything, and this is what, please just take that as the final comment on that. Okay. So the next sort of comment stroke question, because what we've done here is we've picked up on some, again, because what we've got here is a mixture of things that people have sent in to us and sort of standout comments that people have made to us throughout the week. And this next one is a one-liner. I want to get off the tools as soon as possible. So, people want to get off the tools as soon as possible. That is something we hear quite a lot. Obviously, that's why I'm talking about it. So why do we need to get off the tools as soon as possible? Now, just imagine that tomorrow, if I said to most people, tomorrow you're off the tools, you don't need to go back on ever again. Here's a workforce. Here's loads of leads. Here's everything you need. You're off the tools. Here's a buffer of 20 grand in the bank. Cracking. Most people would turn around and go, oh my God, if that happened to me, that'd be amazing. That'd be everything I want. But the reality of that situation is you would be put in charge of something overnight that you would not know how to run. And this is where you're ignoring the one word that I like a lot in business, and that's organic. If you come off the tools in 2 or 3 months from now, the chances are you'll be back on them before you know it, because you need to learn things over time and you need to make mistakes. And yes, you need to make mistakes that aren't as existential, but you'll still make mistakes. And what I mean by that is we have people in the academy who say, I get what you say, but I need to learn. And I've said many a times that, learning from other people's experience without experiencing it yourself is what intelligent people do. The people that turn around and say, I need to learn it myself to really know it, they're the fools. They're the ones that fail, because that's why we have mentors and coaches. And that's why people that you hang around with are important. And that's why, these corny statements like my net worth is my network and all that shit, which is true. But the point being is that when you listen to people that have been there and done it and you avoid those mistakes, you are better off because making them takes a lot fucking longer and some of them can end you. So when you want to come off the tools as soon as possible, you've got to be very, very careful about how you phrase that and what your motivations are behind it and how you get there, because you can't possibly learn in 2 or 3 months how to run the business effectively without you on the tools. Because what you like at managing people, you might be shit at managing people. That might be a skill, or it definitely will be a skill that you need to get better at. Because if like I've just said, if I went, right, here's all your stuff to run your business, here's a team, here's a cash buffer, here's loads of leads, you wouldn't know what to do with it all straight away. You'd be like, fuck, this is what I wanted, but shit. I've got this guy ringing me up saying, right, I've got a problem with this, and the customer said that, and how do I deal with that? And you're like, fuck, I don't know. Right, okay. So now you're into fucking managing him, managing the customer, managing this money in the bank and going, fuck, this is the money I've always wanted, but how do I keep it? How do I manage my cash flow? How do I do this? How do I do that? So, I think it's one of them, be careful what you wish for. And this ain't going to happen anyway. This get off the tools ASAP is not something that I would be advocating as let's make a plan to do that then. Because you need to be organic with it. And I would say you need to be looking at it going 12 to 24, maybe 36 months before that actually happens. Because in reality, that's the way that you would learn all the little mini skills throughout the process of, getting off the tools. Basically what you're saying is if I'm coming off the tools, I'm a business owner and I run a business, because if you're not on the tools, that's the other thing. There's the only thing you can be doing. So how competent are you at running a business? If the answer is I'm not very competent at running a business, then why the fuck do you want to get off the tools so quickly? Because you're going to get found out. Whereas if you do it gradually and organically, like I've said, you're going to learn along the way. You're going to get off the tools and go, right. Because I do have people that do this in the academy, by the way. And I know this is fact, is that some of the people that are off the tools in the academy are finding it difficult. Let's just put it bluntly. There's a lot of learning curves, and getting off the tools isn't the holy grail. All right, if you've got a physical disability or something that means that you have to, then fine. But that's a different story. But it's not a bed of roses getting off the tools. It's not something that guarantees happiness or success. It may be a measure of success to some degree, but not always. Just because you're off the tools, it does not mean that you're also happy or successful. It does. And those two things are important. So, yeah, I think you need to be doing things in phases and when needed. So again, getting someone around you, making sure you've got a couple of subcontractors and a team and a bit of admin support, and you've got a grip of your cash flow and you're quoting and your sales process properly, and you're tracking your customer journey properly. They're all the things that need to be fucking rock solid before you even attempt to walk away from the tools. And they're not difficult things to do, but you need to commit to just learning them. And it's all in the academy. I'm not throwing a different thing at you here than what's already in the 12 steps. And the other stuff that we've got coming out of the academy in the next few months to help you with stuff like this. But managing projects as well, project management is something that we need to master, to come off the tools. How good are you at that? The answer might be not very good. So it might take you a couple of years just to get your head around, right, when I'm managing projects, this is what works, this is what doesn't, this is the stress levels, this is that. When you're getting up to sort of 3 jobs a month and when you breach that 3 jobs a month, it is a different ball game. And when you're breaching 4, 5 jobs a month, you're in a whole different territory. In regards to cash flow, lead flow, sales, just everything changes and the pressure cranks up, because if you think that more sales means more cash, yes, temporarily it does. But if you don't maintain those sales, it catches up with you. And, again, I've seen people do this where they get really busy very quickly. They come off the tools very quickly and then they don't sustain it. And the business basically builds up a momentum that they can't sustain because they weren't doing it organically. They were just trying to do it quickly. And yeah, you can get a bit of beginner's luck. You can get things going quickly sometimes. But it's not getting something going or achieving the off the tools. So what's the measure of success with off the tools? Where's the measure of success with that? Is it I'm off the tools? Or is it I have been off the tools now for 2 years and I didn't go back on? I'd say that is the measure of success, because it's all right getting off the tools 1 month, but if you're back on them the next, there's something that's not right, is it? And you may structure your business like that, where you're sort of half on, half off. I know that that's a very popular model in the academy, that people are off the tools some of the week and on the tools the other parts of the week. And that works probably the best for people that I've seen over the years. I think that that's something that I would aspire to do first, because you can't just come off them in one foul swoop or quickly. It does happen. The best members we've got in the academy, the ones selling the most gear, the ones most successful, got the most money, turning over the most money. I think I don't even think there's maybe a handful that are completely off the tools. But the vast majority are still on the tools to some degree. Yeah, not fully, but they are on the tools to some degree. And they're the ones that are doing the best, because they're still close to the action. And you need to be close to the action in your business. You do, for a long time before you can consider coming away from that, if you ever can. And that's the thing. Remember what the academy was destined for. It was destined to give you a better life. It wasn't destined to get you out of the industry. It was just destined to make you perform better in the industry and have a better life while you're doing it. That is, in a nutshell, what the academy is there to help you do. So again, if you're looking at off the tools and away your business management, all the rest of it, great. But there's learning curves to go through there, and I would, throw caution to the wind here, as I've said, for many reasons. to make sure that you're not trying to do something too quickly, where you've got a knowledge gap that's too big and it catches you out because you're trying to do things too quickly. So I hope that makes sense. That is a bit of another mindset one, really. But again, we've got some good questions here, and I've picked the ones that, for this particular clinic that I think that are very much pertinent at the moment for what Academy members are saying. So, right, we're going to move on to the last check-in. And then off the back of this check-in, we're going to go into another segment, which is around recruiting people and managing people. Because again, I know a lot of you are asking about this at the moment. So, and again, this was sort of the check-in that broke the camel's back and made me go, right, we need to do a piece of, we need to go into this in a deeper fashion. So this check-in's from Oliver. So celebrating wins. He's won some projects with better profit margins and attracting better customers. Brilliant. Constantly being praised for our reviews. Yeah, again, that's where your brand lives. You've all heard me say many times that, your brand is not built through adverts and posts. Your brand is built through reviews. That is it, basically. Reviews and website content, and social media content. But, your brand exists in that space. If people say good things about your brand, your business will grow. It's as simple as that. So that's brilliant. Again, that's just a sign of traction over time. This is just, you've been at it for a couple of years now, so it's not a surprise. So just keep going, but don't take your foot off the gas in terms of getting new reviews. Make sure that you don't think, I've got loads now, so I'll take my foot off the gas with that. Customers like to see current reviews, and make sure that every review is still getting a case study put on your website. Please don't disregard these case studies. I know you're in KBB Academy Plus now as well, so make sure that any reviews that you've got, you're putting forward for a case study. Yeah, just as a piece of homework, let's work on 3, 4, maybe 5 new case studies, okay, and get them over to us and we'll sort them out for you. Personal growth, I've made progress with sleep, eating healthier, and better use of my time. Yeah, so again, for where your business is going, there are things that you definitely need to be doing. Health is, I will never have to not say this, but health is just critical. If you're going to be successful in business, you've got to be a strong engine yourself. Yeah. And that is only going to come from being healthy. So well done for sort of addressing that. And I think probably what your body's telling you in some ways is that you've got to do this. We've got to box any bad habits. Your body's going, oh, we need to stop doing that, because if my brain needs to focus like that, I need to be on it. So yeah, well done. Areas for support, numbers stroke cash flow. So let's start with this one. So there is a cash flow sheet in the academy. I know you've put on here that I know you use the thingy. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the thing. I know you're using the scorecard. Keep trying with cash flow. Are you struggling with it? Is it not making sense for some reason? I think you need to tell me in your WhatsApp group why that is why that's not sort of sticking. So I'm just looking at your scorecard. So scorecard looks healthy. There's nothing on there that I'm overly concerned about. It needs updating. It's a few weeks out of date, this one that you sent me, but it was doing okay when it was up to date. But you need to update it. I think, again, discipline is possibly dropping off a little bit here. Your cash flow sheet is critical. And again, I can tell, because obviously you've put in, numbers and cash flow is an area for support, staff management, then you put tax planning. And then in the next section where you've put concerns, you put need to get a plan to keep on top of turnover tax, VAT, payroll, and accounting costs and stuff like that. This is all, please go to the 12 steps. I think that you need to get into the 12 steps again. And I don't know how far you've been with this, but step 2, knowing your numbers. So step 2, know your numbers and knowing your profit. Know your outgoings, the overheads and the cash flow sheet, know your maths. It feels to me like you've got some good momentum, but you're not quite abreast of the numbers. So I need you to go to step 2 and 3 and really spend some time in step 2 and 3 of the 12 steps. And I mean really spend some time, because most of what you're asking for there, so when you're asking for numbers and cash flow, you need to use the sheet. You said in your check-in that you're trying, but I don't know what you mean by that. Is there a difficulty or something that you need us to help you with? I need more information on that. But step 2 and 3, you need to focus on hard. Staff management, I'm going to come on to shortly because that's in the next segment. Tax planning. When you say tax planning, do you mean personal or business? I'm assuming you need business. Need a plan to get in top of turnover tax, VAT, payroll tax, accounts costs. So do you have a bookkeeper is the thing that I would put here. Is, do you have a bookkeeper? Because it sounds to me like you need some help with making sure that all your receipts and your taxes are in order. Now, I know you might have an accountant, but who is keeping up to speed with the weekly and monthly, the books? So it sounds to me like there's a bit of tidying up to do here. Definitely. This probably does need a call, to be honest, to go through this in more detail. Again, because you have one of the bigger businesses in the academy, so you are going to be hitting a point now where all this stuff I can feel is starting to take its toll, and we need to get on top of it with you. So I would say we'll have a call and we'll go through this in more detail, talk about the tax stuff. But before that call, I really need you to get into step 2 and 3. I need you to get into step 2 and 3 and make sure that you are maximizing all the resources and the knowledge in there, and anything you're not sure about, we then can talk about on the call. Sounds to me like you need a bookkeeper, or some different level of managing the numbers somehow. And then obviously you've put in, I need a system in the looking ahead section of your check-in. You've put, I need a system in place to better manage staff and set them a schedule of works for each day stroke job. Now, yeah, there's a few solutions we've got coming out in the academy. So we are going to be starting some trials around project management software. So I think we'll enroll you into this, and we will get a grip of all this with you, okay? And sort of roll out the plan after that. So yes, when you start moving to the level that you are, yes, you need to be more organized around staff, what they're supposed to be doing every day, and looking at that in more detail. There's going to be lots of stuff to do here. But this is where your business is at, and this is what needs to be done. So let's get to step 2 and 3. So simple actions, really spend some time in step 2 and 3. Make sure you're using them. Book in a call, and let's go through the rest of it then, okay? And we'll use this check-in as the sort of blueprint of what needs to be done, okay? So again, off the back of that, one of the things that is really coming up all the time now is recruitment. So when we're talking about recruitment, what is it? We've got recruiting people. So first of all, we've got to vet people, and we've got to find people. Then we've got to manage them. Okay. So let's talk about how to build a team to fit into your business, because we've got to go from the lone wolf to the business owner. And again, don't think of it. It's like, I need to be completely off the tools and I need to go all the way. This is a transitional journey, and there's just certain bits of mindset that need to change over time. So let's start from the top. So first of all, we've got to let go, haven't we? We've got to let go of beliefs that aren't necessarily true. So, comments like this: nobody can fit a kitchen or bathroom like me. Other people will ruin my impeccable reputation, or they'll mess it up and I'll be the one fixing it. This is going to sound familiar to anybody, including myself, that very first got to the point where they needed to recruit people. But this is exactly what stops you from moving forward. And it's not reality. This is confirmation bias. The stories that you tell yourself are part of, are part of you wants an excuse to stay safe. So let's think about it like this. Your brain knows, even if it's not always nice, familiarity is comfortable. Yeah. That's why sometimes when people are skint and poor, they can't not be skint and poor because they are programmed to be skint and poor. So even though it's shit on one hand, it's comfortable, and that familiarity to the brain means safety. Yeah. So brain goes, it's shit, but it's safe. So let's stay here. So that's why people self-sabotage a lot of things, including business opportunities and all the rest of it, because they try, they start moving, and then they go, oh, fuck, no, brain's not feeling safe because there's comfort zone issues, and we're starting to feel challenged about a few things. So we retreat back to safety, and we go back to being skint and poor. But what we've got to, obviously, to be successful, that is not what we want. And that's why being uncomfortable is important. So obviously, when you're hiring other people, it's exactly the same. You've got to relinquish some of the control and the safety that that means that you've got to break out of that safety stroke comfort zone if we're going to progress. And hiring other people will mean letting go of control, and that will have teething problems. It will have teething problems. When I first started out in business, I didn't think I would have the quality of people that I have got around me now. I did not think that, you hear about great businesses, you see great things, but you don't think it's not me, not poor little me. Good people will go and work for other people, but they won't work for me. Now, you've got to be a leader here, and we'll come on to that in a bit. But let's look at it this way. Bringing people into your business also brings new skills, capacity, and freedom. You need some of that. If you're going to grow, you need to bring a variety of different personalities as well into the business. And it's just important. People are your biggest asset. They really are. And put it this way: if you're not getting off the tools, if someone else isn't picking them up, so yeah, the tools need picking up and things need to be done with them. So if you want to get off the tools, it can't be you forever, can it? So you're going to have to break through this at some point. But what I'll say about this section we're about to go into here is there's no, again, like everything, there's no silver bullet. And you've got to think here how you can apply these tips and strategies to yourself. So part one is we've got to recruit good people. Yeah. So to recruit good people, we've got to find them. Yeah. Where can we find people? Now, I have personally recruited a lot of fitters in my time off the Facebook groups like UK Kitchen Fitters. There's loads of them. Go on Kitchen Fitters UK and all these groups, and you will find loads of like where there's thousands and thousands and thousands of fitters. And I've put a template in the academy. So if you're an academy member and you're here, then you'll see that there's an example post in this section where basically it's hi all. So the point of this post here is that we go into these groups and we post in them and we make ourselves known that we're looking for people. And there's an example post there. It says, hi all, looking for a kitchen and bathroom fitters, whichever one it may be. With tools in advance, join our growing team here at your company name. We manage the whole process from design to sign off and have our own supply chain, meaning we look after our customers and our fitters alike. We pay more than the big sheds and quicker too. Pride in our work is everything, and if you care about the standard of what you install, we'd love to hear from you. Message me for a chat or a coffee. We're currently working in these areas, and have a great day, guys. Don't be cocky or arrogant in your messaging. Don't go, yeah, we're a growing business, and and I'm Mr. Big Bollocks and all that, because you'll just get torn apart in the comments, and no one will approach you. And like anything, it doesn't mean because no one comments or no one says anything straight away that it hasn't been noted by somebody. So there will be people looking at stuff. I've had people come to me weeks after these posts have gone in these groups and say, oh, I've just seen this, or I was going to message you at the time and all that stuff. And most of the time it's like, I'm recruited now. But believe me, I've had it a year later. So This is just about planting seeds and leaving them and see what happens. Yeah. So that's the first thing I would do. I would go into the groups. I would obviously mention the area, your company name, all the rest of it, let them check you out. And again, if you've built your business to a different thing and they know you're a rich trusted trader or something like that, and they know you've got credibility, they're probably going to get in touch if they're interested. They're going to feel more comfortable about it. So that's the first place I would look. I'd look at the Facebook groups. I would look at job sites and national platforms like Indeed, CV Library. The people on there are sometimes like the older type fitters because they're a bit more old school. They're using these types of websites. But again, you'll get some good people there. Maybe hiring someone a bit younger that you want to nurture could work, or someone older with experience, but these are just a bit more set in the ways and all the rest of it. So it's whatever suits your preference and management style and what sort of person you are. So on these job sites, obviously, again, you want to emphasize your standards, clarify job structure and expectations. Again, creating a profile on these is fairly simple. Use AI to help you write your profile. And, if you need help from us, reach out. But again, using these or just having a business profile on there, just create one. So you've got people that can find your business who are looking for jobs. And again, I get people coming to me. I probably get a handful of people every month that approach me for a job. And, obviously most of the time it's, sorry, I've got nothing for you. But the point is, the more accessible and findable and professional you look online, and the better your business looks, the more people are going to come over time to ask you if you've got any jobs. And it's just about, it's like when you go looking for customers, you just do as many things as you can, and this is no different. You need to find good people, like you need to find good customers, and the strategy is the same. You just need to get yourself out there and let people know that your business is hiring. So that's it. Job sites and national platforms, poaching and networking. So again, by far the best thing that I've got, the best people that I've ever had through poaching them from other places. Because let's face it, whoever your future employees are, they are currently working for somebody else or themselves. So it's up to you to make the grass look greener, basically. And speaking to tradespeople that you see on site is massive. Do you know any joiners? Do you know any kitchen fitters? They'll all know people. Carry leaflets and business cards that you can hand over quickly and give to people. Add them on Facebook and stay in touch. When you know of someone who's decent, add them on Facebook. Hi mate, hope you're well. Really nice job and all the rest of it. Comment on their stuff and follow them for a bit. Make them think, who's this guy that keeps liking my posts, and who is this? That's a really good strategy to deploy if especially if you're following people on social media, because they might be fitting like how many fitters out there post, oh, I've just fitted this Howden's kitchen or this Wick's kitchen. They're clearly doing labor only work. They're clearly doing jobs and not charging the customer for full supply and fit. So these are the perfect fitters that you want to be going after. So they're all over Facebook. You can't sit here and say, I can't find anyone, because they're everywhere. I would embarrass you if you come to me and say, I can't find anyone. I will find someone I'll find you 10 fitters within half an hour just by doing quick Google search or a Facebook search, and you follow all their pages, you like a few of their last posts, you message a few of them, send them stuff to price up and get conversations going. This is not difficult. Visit the current job. So again, if you do get someone, go and visit the current job. Don't just take them on. But again, if you're following them on Facebook and you've looked at the pictures, you're going to see what they're doing. You'll see it. Build rapport over time. Don't rush it. Even though you're desperate for someone, don't rush in and be like desperate. You want to make sure that you aren't rushing into it. Treat potential fitters like customers. A great one will make you more money over the years than some clients ever will. And that's so true. Having good people, especially in the trade, will churn out good jobs that make your business good margin. These people are like gold dust. Just do not rush it. You want the right ones, and they are out there. Trust me. So that's it. Poaching and networking. Asking people once you know who they are, and they say, oh yeah, try this guy. Find out where he is on Facebook, follow him, like his stuff, create a spreadsheet with these people, and if you need to, go around Facebook yourself. Do you see what I mean? Just hunt after people, poach them, go and get them, and they're out there. Local colleges, again, this is a bit trickier, but you may look at colleges who have got adult trainees that are looking for placements who, all right, they might not be fully fledged kitchen fitters, but what you might need in the early days before you're ready to come off the tools completely, and again, as I've said before, not taking things too quickly, if you've got a half decent skilled kitchen fitter that you say to him, right, mate, I'm going to nip off now, it's 2:00, I'm going to nip on, do some paperwork for a few hours. I've got a survey to go and do. Leg them units up. Give them stuff to do that can't cause a fucking disaster, and let them finish off for the last couple of hours of the day. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you do the stuff that really matters, but leave gaps in the day where you can either tell them to go there in the morning and start and do whatever, and then you come and do the stuff that's really important. And then, this is how you train people up, but this is how you use those pockets of time to, right, I'm nipping off to do a survey, you do that, I'll be back in a couple of hours, and this is where having someone with you on a lower wage that's learning can give you those pockets of hours here and there to nip off and do what you need to do. And that's something that I see a lot of people do. So it's really good. But, you will find those types of trainees and people that are keen, that want to learn and will come and work for you. Colleges, go to the local, college where you're, where they do like the woodworking courses and shit like that. They'll have loads of people in there learning how to be joiners and kitchen fitters who don't have jobs, and they might fit perfectly into your business. So go and have those conversations, contact the colleges, offer site experience or work trials to top students. Great for spotting future talent. If you've got like a 19, 20-year-old lad who's really keen, and really up for it, you might get 2, 3, 4, 5 years. You might get the rest of, might get 10 years out of him. But, you'll get someone on board there that will allow you the little bits of time to go off and do what you need to do. And they'll get what they came for because they'll learn as well and you'll teach them. So it's a trade-off. You give me time to run my business, I'll teach you how to do this. That's the relationship. And, perfect. Sign them up properly when you do get someone. Remember, use the subcontractor agreement that we've put on the right-hand side of the screen. Obviously, change it. This is ours that we've used in the past. So make sure you change the wording so it's bespoke to your own business. And then use your digital signature, like a Better Proposals or Signable, or get them to sign it manually. Make sure they got a UTR, insurance, ID, all that type of stuff. Don't mess with cash-only arrangements. It's not worth the risk. So let's assume then that you've got someone, you found someone. So part one is finding someone. So by now we've gone through the obvious routes: Facebook groups, local job sites, national platforms, poaching and networking, local colleges. And once you find someone, you're signing them up properly. But I've added in 1.5 here, vetting and due diligence. Now, I don't believe that in that section in part one that there's not really anything else. You're asking people, you're online, you're going to the colleges, you're doing what you can. Use your own Facebook group, your own Facebook page, to mention that you're looking for people, and just get out there, just go hunting. So once we find some candidates, what do we do then? Yeah, because we've got to make sure these people are right and they're going to represent your business in the right way. So number one is visiting their previous jobs. Ask where they've been working and go and have a look. If possible, speak to a customer and see how it went. Eve, I don't know how you do that on the slide, but you need to know that you're dealing with someone who's reputable. Don't just look at the end result. Observe cleanliness, finishing details, and respect for the home. If they won't share where they've worked, or try talking you out of seeing it, that's a red flag. Yeah, don't. If they're not going to be transparent. I get that some people might be a bit defensive and protective, and there are some odd characters out there, but you got to read people. But there's a potential red flag there if they don't want to reveal things, because you're like, well, why? If you're confident in what you're doing, you're good at what you do, you wouldn't be bothered. Number two, check their portfolio. Ask for before and after photos. Again, if you've followed them on social media, which you should have done by now, and I understand that some fitters don't have social media. probably even better because they're less visible to other people. But if they have got social media, great. If they haven't, everyone takes before and after pictures, whether they've got social media or not. So always ask for it. Look for consistency and attention to detail. Ask about challenges on them jobs and how they handled them. So how did this job go? And see what the response is, what you got, and gauge their sort of attention to detail and their experience. Number 3, speak to people that they've worked with. So other fitters, ex-employers, or contractors that know them. Ask short questions like, would you use them again? Did they finish on time? Any dramas that I should know about? Use your gut here. Hesitations often mean something, or people don't want to drop him in it, so I don't want to say that, but you'll feel if they're not telling you something, and that in itself is telling you something. So number 4, confirm their setup. Do they have their own tools and van? Obviously, we don't want to be providing that and wiping people's asses, because then we're also breaching the employment sort of thing as well. They need to be on their own, unless they're going to come cart in, which I would not recommend, but that's a thing for another time. Are they operating properly? UTR, insurance. Do they understand how your setup works? Supply chain, sign-offs, scope of work. Get your payment agreements in place and make sure that you're transparent with them the other way around. Number 5, do a trial run on a simple job. Use a utility room, a remedial job, or a second fix as a trial. Something that's simple. Watch how they communicate, how they handle problems, and how the job flows. Start small. It's cheaper to test and clean up a major mess. Don't put them on your paint to order 40 grand kitchen job that's like, the customer's all over you, and then you just roll him out and go, oh, here's my mate, and it goes tits up and fucking hell, do you know what I mean? So, do it properly. Number 6, formalize everything. Don't start work without a signed agreement. Log key details. Obviously, keep records of your UTR, your ID. If you're an academy member, use your CRM system. If you're not, then obviously use whatever system to record this customer and employee type data. Make sure that you keep it somewhere. Have a system that shows professionalism. It attracts the right people and deters the wrong ones. And then we've got part 2. So we found someone, we've vetted them, we've been through all that, and now we've got managing and keeping great fitters. And this is the bit that will catch people out. The first bit's fairly easy, but this next bit is where it gets a bit more complicated. So part 2, managing and keeping great fitters. Once you've found someone good, the next challenge is keeping them long term. This is how to make sure they stick around and keep delivering. So number 1, treat them like you want to be treated. Pay them fairly and pay them quickly. Delayed payments kill trust fast. Good people have options. Don't give them a reason to go looking somewhere else. Yeah, keep them where you need them, and that's in your business. 2, give them structure and forward planning. Give notice when you can. Nobody likes last-minute chaos. Be clear on timelines, site access, and who's doing what. Creating a WhatsApp group for each job is really important. Making sure that everyone that's involved in that job is in that WhatsApp group, and make sure that obviously plans are shared. You're being really clear on what the job is and what the cost is and all the rest of it, and you're not creating chaos yourself. Make the job run smoothly. So clear job sheets, drawings, and materials lists. Make sure that they understand what's being delivered and when, and make sure that they're in communications with you at all times. Check everything's ready before the fitter arrives, and if you can't do that, make sure that they understand that they're taking the delivery, and get them to check off the delivery. Respect their time. Don't make them chase you for basics. It's your job to run the job. It's not their job, so just remember that. And again, if you want a bit more from them in terms of, look, help me and think with me, then obviously just be careful how you structure that, and how that looks to the customer. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but what I'm saying is that, you're the boss at the end of the day. And that leads me into the next bit where I say, don't be a boss. So basically, number 4 is be a leader, not a boss. And what we mean by that is explain where the business is heading and what role they play. Everyone likes being part of something. Yeah. And nobody wants to feel like, oh, you're my boss. It's like, no, I'm here to lead the business, and let them feel part of a growing, ambitious team, not just a hired hand, and that is true. This isn't like bullshitting people. No member of staff is really a hired hand in my eyes. Everybody's part of that vision. Otherwise, they're not going to be there. And I'm always very passionate about that, is that the right people are on the boat, and you need to be the same. And you might think, oh, it's just a fitter. It's just a fitter. It's not just a fitter. It's someone who's representing you, your brand, and they have the power to make or break you. And you need to remember that and pay that same respect to them. But be their leader, don't be their boss. Yeah. Number 5, always be recruiting. Like I've said above, is keep the net out. Make sure you're on these sites, you're posting in the groups, and you've got a CV library building up, because over the years you will get people that come to your business and ask you if you want work. So always be recruiting. Don't wait for someone to quit before finding the next. Always have people in the pipeline. So for instance, in my business, and what I mean by that is, my business, everyone's business is the same, but there's people that I could bring into my business tomorrow, and I haven't, because I haven't got room for them. But if anyone in my business starts fucking around, and doesn't play the game, and goes against the grain, they'll be replaced, because there's people waiting. And in any good business, there will always be people waiting to join. So yeah, make sure that you're building that sort of buzz and excitement around what you're doing, and you've got to believe that. Don't expect other people to have a buzz and excitement about it. If you're fucking miserable, you've got to carry that energy forward, but that will be infectious to other people. So like I say, keep a warm list of people that you've spoken to, that you've trialed, or you want to approach. Always have this energy around recruitment. Don't see it as, oh, I need one fitter, so I'll get one fitter and then I'll stop. No, have conversation and relationships building, because the best people that have come into my business are people that I had a relationship with previously. And the worst people that I've had in my business are the people that just came in like that. And I was like, we're getting to know each other, like literally in the business. It's better to get to know people out of the business before they come into the business, 100%. So the final thought for this is, yes, it takes effort, but growing your business starts with growing your team. A company is a group of people. It is not a thing on its own. It's a group of people, and how you grow your group of people is really important. You can't scale with just your own two hands. And if you've got the skills, the standards, and the ambition, you owe it to yourself to build something bigger than just being busy. You need to be brave. So be professional, and above all, back yourself. Believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, no one else is going to believe in you. Okay? So I think we've covered enough on that segment. I'm hoping, in terms of recruitment and managing people, there's enough to be getting on with there. So don't forget that tomorrow you've got your clinic with Lee and Ariana at 4:00. Make sure you get your questions in before that. And like I say, there's been some great questions here. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. Don't forget to keep using the link to get your questions in. The full, as you've seen tonight, we've had 2 full check-ins. I pick the content for these live streams. There's been other check-ins that I've responded to privately. So again, some people want a private response. So just always remember that you don't always need to have it done on here. You can have it done privately. Some people just, you see where I'm going with it. Some people are happy with this. Some people prefer this. Some check-ins just do need one-to-one. Sometimes this doesn't work. But again, we get some great questions all the time. We've answered some really good ones tonight, and we've gone into a really long segment there at the end to cover off some of the other stuff. Okay. So, like I say, thanks for tuning in. If you're watching live, brilliant. Use your WhatsApp groups for chatting at any time. If you're watching on catch up, same again, because comments are off under the video. But we're back with this same thing in 2 weeks. The deadline for getting questions in for this clinic are 1:00 on a week Monday. So you've got plenty of time now to get your new questions in for the next one. As you can see here, I will go into deep segments if needed. So don't be, ask anything you need to ask. And again, we're going to pull out things that are going on in general conversations and in other clinics and stuff like that, and in the lives and all the things, because there's a lot of stuff going on in there. So I hope you found it useful. again, we're hitting up to nearly an hour and a half now. So, yeah, it's good. Really, really good stuff in here tonight. And like I say, I'll see you on this clinic again in a couple of weeks. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.